because they're very simple people. And that's something just you can't explain in the class.
So what you're saying that is a filmmaker do not have to be moral. I mean, what count is film.
I think it's important you filmmaker not moralistic to judge the world, but it's important that you have this moral heart. It's very important you need to understand the humanity, especially low people, because the low people is they don't have this fence between themselves and the world. Yeah. So we are cultured, civilized, educated people. We have the fence. So in a way, we can protect our emotion and mood. And with low people in front of your camera, is totally naked. And I think the moral issue is to understand what they care, because most of low people, they're very superstitious. And they're very sad. If you ask them to act in a crazy way, they will say, I lose my face in the whole village. My wife will commit suicide if she see me acting this way. Then you really need to understand there's a social code, which you never learn in the school, you really learn from people. And in my case, because I grew up in a small village, like I left when I was 18, 19 in the village. And I think that was good. I know exactly what's their sorrow. The most important thing is know their sorrow and their joy. And then you know the limitation, you can't go further, otherwise you really get him down.
There is something like cruelty.
Yeah.
It's like Rossellini with his first film. It was he said that on one side you have the film, on the other side you have the people, and you have to cope with both of them. Yeah. Because if you are very good only to people, maybe the film will be bad. Yeah. And the opposite is true as well.
I think
what you said, it reminds me a little bit also about Kiarostami's system with young children, because he faced the same problem you faced, the fact that he has a script or some lines, and that lines should be said by children, which is impossible to obey them. And he managed to make the lines become part of their memory. So it's a little bit. I think that everyone then have to find his own way. But
May I ask you another question? Something that we feel and we discuss very often with the students here is where should a filmmaker put his energy on film? I mean, when you've been doing lots of film, and when we do a film, a long feature film like that, it's a long process. It's a long process before the film, it's a long process during the shooting, it's a long process after the film, during the editing, but it's also a process after, when you have to present it, to diffuse the film. What's important to keep in mind? Because we do not have enough energy to do everything properly. What's important?
I would say something against perfectionist. Myself isn't really. I don't really believe in perfection thing. So I would say, because most important is you should ignore the small details, but you should somehow pour your energy on the big vision in the very beginning of the project. I really believe, I think the three stages is very, very important. Of course, editing, all my film is not made in the shooting. All my film is made in the editing room, meaning reconstruct on top of the fiction footage and the documentary footage. I don't believe editing is merely shot one, glue to shot two, to shot three. That's not cinema, That's a bit like photographic, order. So you really need to do that, re-storytelling in the editing room, beyond your script. Forget about your script, because that's the energy truly come out as a rhythm. Shots by shots. It's nothing to do with the script. That's words. So that's for me the most crucial. And then I go back, shooting. But shooting for some filmmakers is a very boring process, because they don't treat it as such a amazing, inspiring process. Because some filmmakers, they've storyboarded. So they just shoot what's storyboarded, which I anti, But in the film school, you might be trained as storyboarding. But I was in film school for 9 years, from east and west. I always anti that, and I hate it. Just because of my background. I know my peasant will not act in the storyboard. Sorry. So why we do that? You better read a book about peasants than draw your storyboard. But it's important to do maybe sometimes to make your cameraman and your professional actors understand who they suppose where to impose, where the light comes in, where the face should be, you know. So that's important for your technician crew. And I think could be beautiful for the camera composition. Yeah. But still, I think shooting is important, but you can't rescue a film from shooting, though. So I think then go back to the first stage is a script, a script process, which don't treat script as script, meaning don't lose yourself inside of the script development, but always very naked to be in front of the script to say, is this story worth it? Or is this vision a truly authentic vision? So I get very annoyed sometimes, you know, like with my filmmaker friends, they're talking about one little thing, one little detail in the script. And I always say, sorry, but the whole thing is shit. So this is very cruel to say, but say to yourself. So because some script I wrote, I know there's some amazing montages in the script I wrote, but I know the whole thing is just mediocre. And if things like that, if it's a fiction project, I would just say abandon it. You know, of course it's very painful to do that, but it's not useful. It's not worth it. So when you construct a story, don't construct story yet. Construct your vision yet first. So something I could say the example is like Kubrick. Kubrick is very professional, perfection filmmaking based in the Hollywood system. But I think what he good is first vision, not story. So he has philosophical vision about society in violence, or like, you know, Clockwork Orange, or Doctor Strangelove, or 2001: Space Odyssey. I think first he has his vision, very strong philosophical vision, and then he searched for similar topic, and he read, and in the end, maybe after some years, you settled on a script which presenting that vision. And another filmmaker maybe I can refer, which is more close to our way of filmmaking, is this French filmmaker called Bruno Dumont, who made Flanders, 29 Palms. Lots of people hate Bruno Dumont cinema because it's very, very cruel, or say not very warm. Yeah, one of his warmest films is called Humanity, which is more or less warm, but you know, it's cruel experience. It's very gray, very humble, very documentary looking, shit looking basically. But it's no money, you know. But he has very strong vision on the subject. So it's beyond the story. I would say forget about this character now should drink water or go to the shop in that scene. Forget it. It's not very helpful. To think the whole story from a very big eye, very big vision, very big brain, to say, is this really authentic? Is this really workable? And does that philosophically involve the future and the past? So you have to have really big ambition. And I like people who has big ambition, and I don't dislike, because lots of people say, okay, but that ambition gonna kill his humble experience. No, ambition will really add so much on your story. And the rest is trivial. So, okay, this dialogue is no good, it's fine. Your actor, if he's clever, he will help you a lot. And in the editing room, you more or less get rid of anything you don't like anyway. So that's trivial technical problems for me, you know. So really work on the big vision. And read a lot before you write something small. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if there are some questions.
Yes, I have no experience in making a movie, but sometimes I was just writing some short story and I was seeing it in images, and I said, okay, I shouldn't go on writing it because I see it in images and it doesn't work. And so my question is, when did you start to have this idea to shoot, to make a movie? I mean, was it from the beginning that you were writing and you were thinking maybe, okay, I see it in images, or when does it start? Because you started writing early.
Of course, it's very organic, they together. Yeah. If you're a cinematic person, you already think with the image. But for example, with this UFO film, it's more like this. I wrote it for the emotion of my landscape towards agricultural landscape. So, you know, not like a landscape in Switzerland, which is very beautiful, mountain, ski, But the landscape is different from China, because Chinese landscape is agriculture. Is you have land, okay, let's grow rice. You have land, not some beautiful tree in a way, apple, apple, pear you can eat. So my love towards a very kind of, it's kind of practical, utilized peasant culture. I strong emotion towards that. So when I wrote, in my mind I was keep thinking, okay, this peasant walk, but not like about camera angle. He more or less he step on those roots, apple roots, or he step on, and then the goose come in, and then buffalo stop in the middle of the road. So I think it's less so specific, but more a vision, more a map, which constructed by different objects. So the road should be not clean. The road should be always obstacled by goose, buffalo, some truck, some peasants in the middle of the road. So that's my vision, yeah. So I know that's very different from you, how you construct things, but this, I think you need to be both, but you shouldn't be too early enter the specific frame composition, because that would be limiting your imagination, although you think that's very cinematic to write like that. But on the other hand, it's almost like that's like a realization of your story. So I think maybe you should be aware, because this design is very good for that thing. But on the other hand, if I write the thing totally differently with different character, you might demand a totally different way of shooting it. You might say, actually, handheld is much, much better, So I think you just remind yourself, don't eventually fall into the trap of specific technical design or aesthetic design. But nevertheless, it's really important, especially with your cameraman and your actor. They are very, in a way they're vulnerable. They believe in you, although you know nothing. Like in my case, every morning wake up in the set, I don't know at all how to shoot it. But you have to pretend you know. And you only know when you're talking to them. So the cameraman forces you to say, but where am I? Yeah. Then he forces you to decide. Because you more or less don't want to decide because you want everything. But no, so you can't. So you had to decide, okay, let's do wide shot, as any other film did. So in the end, it becomes very industrial. Wide first, wide, until the dialogue is ready, and then go close up. And then run out of time. Then everyone's cranky, angry. And then I said, okay, but what about this amazing close-up design? I have 7 more shots. Sorry, move on. That's like a fiction shooting if you have more than 30 people. So the rest I never really realized what I need to do, because the complication of the set, yeah.
What you're saying is, even for a well-known filmmaker or yourself, we always have to manage contraintes, I don't know, the boundaries, limitation, and we have to play with that. Where do you find your freedom? What's the pleasure you have? At what moment in the process of the filmmaking you enjoy most?
I think it's more, maybe I don't function in that way, whereas limitation. I function in that way is, oh, this is exciting. Let's capture that, So it's my filmmaking is more instant, immediate, intuitive kind of filmmaking. So I'm certainly not very painful director, as they say. Some East European great master can be so painful. Whatever you do, he's angry, because it's not his vision. But so I'm more like I'm married to them. In a way, it's them to make my film. So I have this attitude of, you do it. Let it go. And if it go too far, I say sorry. Let's do this once. Yeah. So I'm more this kind of director, and also it's not easy, for young female director. I think most of people, they get used to this big, angry, screaming man as a director. As everyone's scared. But it's not my way to do the film. So I'm really quite, I think quite gentle, quite subtle with people. And I don't like this angry mood in the set.
Dictatorial.
Yeah, I don't really like. So, but then some people